Hey guys, let's get started creating our first Ansible script in this series. Okay guys, the previous two videos we set up our lab in CML to be able to create our Ansible scripts. So let's review our quick lab real quick. We'll log into our Ansible box and we will begin to create the required files to run our Ansible playbook. Okay guys, so this is our CML lab we've been building for the last couple days. Quick review, our external connection into the lab network here, the essentially border gateway router. Okay, we're not going to be touching that. We have router 2, router 3, switch A, and switch A, both site 1 and site 2, and we've configured SSH on these 4 devices for site 1 and site 2. We did not set up the SWB switches. That will come at a later date. So let's hop over to our Ansible box. So we are in our Ansible box. So if we do a Ansible -- version, as you can see, we're running Ansible 2.9.6. Okay, so let's look at our directory. We don't currently have a directory. Okay, so what we're going to work on is we're going to work on building a quick directory. So let's just do a mkdir Ansible lab 1. Right, so right there's our directory. So we're going to change into that, and we're just going to use this right here. We will do a make dir backups. Okay, so that's in there, and we're going to change into that real quick and do a pwd. I need that file path, right? And you'll see why I need to do that in a second. I'm going to add that to the template I have. Okay, so let's start by looking at the Ansible configurator. Look at the Ansible version real quick. So the default configuration file is located right here. etc Ansible config. Let's cat that file quick. All right. So reviewing that file, as you can see, everything's commented out, right? And this has a lot of explanation on what these things are. And all you gotta do is remove a comment, and it would essentially enable that command, enable that configuration. By default, if it does not find a config file within the directory, it will then utilize this directory, this config file here. So we're going to build our own config file. It's a little simpler. I have a template built out. We're going to review it real quick, and we'll move on from there. So let's do that quick. Let's change back to our main Ansible lab 1 directory, and let's do a vim ansible.cfg, and let's do insert, and we're going to copy and paste this template I have. Okay, so here's that template. So basically it says these are the defaults. Inventory is going to equal hosts in the local folder. We're going to disable host key checking for SSH. In production, you may want to keep that enabled. I'm going to disable retry files because if it fails, I don't want to generate extra files in this box. Forks is how many connections will it try to connect to at once. We have 4 devices. I have it set to 3 forks. You can go to 10. Basically, depending on your box, depending on your network, you got to feel that number out. If you're doing 100 devices, you may want to go to 10, 15 if your box can handle it. If you start seeing timeouts, then you know you need to back up a little bit. So let's exit out of here. So we're just going to quickly do a colon and WQ for right quit. Okay, so once we do that right quit, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do a host file. And we're just going to do vim hosts. Okay, and we're gonna use this host file I have real quick. Create a quick one. Insert, paste, escape. So let's walk through this real quick. So we're creating a variable for the all group, and the all group is this right here. It's only one router. By default, every host is a member of the all group. So we did Ansible user Scott, Ansible network OS, iOS, because we're connecting to iOS OS devices, and we're using the network CLI connection. And then obviously we have the router 2, which is the host name, and because I don't have DNS tied to that host name, I'm specifying that it connects to that IP. Okay, so colon WQ for write quit, do a quick ls. So we have a host file, we have an Ansible config file, right? So now let's create our little playbook, right? So let's do vim Ansible test 1.yaml. You can either do YAML or YML. Okay. Same thing. Insert. Let me come over here, grab a quick YAML file. Okay. That should work. Paste. So let's walk through this real quick. I'm going to escape. So YAML is defined by 3 tick marks at the top. I commented out this comment here. It says backup all devices, because your future self will thank your past self if you comment. I'm using the group all, not gathering facts, right? And basically what I'm doing is I'm issuing the iOS command go run. I'm registering the output there to the name config. The next task is take that config as standard out, as you would see it in like a terminal, and save it to the destination home v1p3r Ansible 1 lab. So we actually need to change that a little bit. So we'll come back in here. Ansible 1 lab backups. Actually, I think that's right. Ansible 1 lab backups, inventory hostname, and config. I took this path from us previously. IP interface backup. So we're just doing a quick show interface status, and they're excluding down, not connector disabled. So it should only show the up ports, and we're registering that as an interface, and then we're taking that interface registration as standard out and saving it as a file as well. And where it says inventory hostname, that's tied to the host file. Okay. Then we have the 3 little dots at the bottom to signify the end of the YAML file. One thing to remember about YAML is it's very structured, as in it's got to line up in the correct order. Okay. If you have something out of mark, out of alignment, your YAML file will cause an error. Okay, so let's do a colon WQ. Let's do a quick ls. Okay, so now we have the files. Let's go ahead and run them. See what comes from that playbook. So we're gonna do Ansible -playbook. We're gonna specify an inventory file named hosts. Then we're gonna run the Ansible test1 YAML file, and we're gonna do a double tick ask password. I want it to ask the SSH password. We're gonna type that in, and let's see what happens. Okay, so it says Paramiko is not installed on module named Paramiko. Let me do a sudo apt update. If maybe it's been updated since the last couple days. Sudo apt upgrade -y. Try running it again. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but we will see. Okay, so it still failed. It said Paramico is not installed. No module named Paramico. Alright, so let me troubleshoot this real quick and we will resume the video. Okay guys, so after about 15-20 minutes of troubleshooting, I haven't figured out exactly what's wrong with that box. I'm going to actually rebuild it and get it going. I bounced over to my other Ansible box that I have for my CCNP training. It's actually CentOS box, but we're going to continue with that. I've already loaded those files. We're going to review them real quick to make sure that they're all there. Okay, so as you can see, this is it's a CentOS Ansible test. So if I did a list, we got the Ansible config. Let me cat that real quick. All right, same config file. I'm gonna cat the hosts. Right, same host. Right, all variables, same host command, and then we're gonna cat the test.yaml. Okay, and it's essentially the exact same YAML file. I did change the path here as I did create a new directory for this lab. So let's clear that. Now let's do Ansible playbook, and what we're gonna do is a dash or a tick I with hosts. Again, explicitly choose the file name, even though we have it defaulted in the file. We're gonna explicitly choose it. Then we're gonna do the test.yaml, then a double tick, ask, and pass. We're going to enter the password, and it's saying that I'm using Python 2 and it's deprecated, so that's the only warning I should receive. So as you can see, it did one router, one play, one router. So let's go through this. So it initiated a play on all. First task was config backup. It ran the config backup, which means it SSH'd into the device and it ran the show run. And it registered as config. The next task was to save that output. So it saved it to the backup directory, and we'll look at it in a second. The next task was to do a show IP interface brief. It ran that task, it registered as interface, and it saved that task. So let's do a CD backups and do an LS. As you can see, both of them are there. Okay, and one more thing about the recap. So it says router 2, it's yellow because it's changed. It ran through 4 OKs, which means it communicated 4 times saying it was good. It changed 2, meaning it changed here and it changed here. Okay, so let's cat the router 2 config. So as you can see right here, it's got that configuration of the show run. So it's base configuration, right? So host name, enable password. I didn't use enable secret. I know, bad practice. Got the DHCP scope in there. No IP domain lookup. Got the user account again. I know, no service, no password, no service password encryption. Got the interface configs. Basically, it's the show run that you would get if you would run it on the actual device itself. It's saved to a file. It's saved to a directory. If you had an SMB directory, say you wanted a file share, there's a Windows file share, you can create an SMB path and do the exact same thing with there and kind of get in the routine of backing up your devices. So let's do another LS, and we're gonna cat the router 2 interface status. So again, it ran the IP interface status. This is the output, and the output is these 4 here. These 2 interfaces, and I didn't include the down. I just ran the base interface. So you can see these 2 are up. Boom. This is very good if you have like a collapsed core that shouldn't be changing a lot, you could do a show IP interface status, or show IP interface brief, or show interface status, and you can monitor which ones are up only, right? So if something changed, you would know. So I haven't done anything else, obviously. Let's rerun that command. Oops. Let's rerun that Ansible command. Hold on. I gotta get back out of here. Now let's Ansible -playbook. And we're gonna try to run it without the host, specifying the host file just to see if it works. It really should, right? And then we're gonna do a test.yaml, and we're gonna do a tick ask pass. Same thing, enter the password. Boom, there you go. It read the host file based on our default config file that we have in that directory. Now, if you look, it has 4 saying it's okay. Nothing's changed. It didn't overwrite those files. And that's because the output that it received this time is the same output that was contained within that file previously. Okay. So let's go into this router. We're doing router 2. And we're going to enable config t interface GI 0/1. Shut it. Right? And we're also going to put another user on there, right? Right. Simple user, just made it config change. We're going to end and write it. Let's pull up the thing again, and let's rerun that exact same command. I haven't done anything to the directories, haven't removed the files at all. Rerunning. Hey, it did that. Hey, it realized something changed. If you look, now it's changed, right? So we're going to do a cd backups, and we're going to cat the router to interface, because that's what we really changed. So if you look here, it says administratively down now. That's the change. Now, it doesn't highlight the exact change, right? It just says something changed here. It does a comparison, but it doesn't tell you the only thing that changed using this structure. Okay, this is a good way to just, run backups weekly on your equipment, or depending on how often you want to back up your equipment, if you're not using another service that does it. And you're able to say, oh, well, this changed. And if it's done through change management, if you do all your changes through Ansible, right, and you're building the backups before and the backups after through Ansible, then this would be a way to validate change management. This would be a way to validate if something changed during your backups. Okay? So I'm not quite sure why the Ubuntu box did not work. I'm going to be rebuilding that box, or I may just stay with the CentOS box. The CentOS box was used for my CCNP studies that I still am studying for, but I may just use that CentOS box because it's already set up. We already know it works. No reason to reinvent the wheel. So I may just use that in the next video and continue these labs with that box. So I expect to see more. Next time we're going to go through and really talk about and demonstrate how we can utilize multiple groups, right, in the same playbook under different plays. So we can make one play with 4 tasks for the alls group. Then we can take another play for just the routers and run another couple tasks for that router or those routers in the same playbook. So we're running one Ansible command, but it's doing multiple things within that command to help that change, to automate that process. So that's what we're really going to be looking at moving forward. We're gonna start modifying that host file that I put in. It only has one host in it right now. We're gonna build that out. We're going to modify the playbook. We're gonna maybe change some interface configuration, add a user, or add some VLANs to some switches, create some backups, maybe backup the switches, but do just a show IP interface brief on the routers, just to differentiate the different plays within that playbook. So stay tuned. Hope to see you next time and enjoy.